I'm testing this mic, which doesn't work, but it looks so good, right? Here's an unpopular opinion for you. The most important skill to master when you're learning a foreign language is speaking. In the next video, you will learn the 4 reasons why that is, and why it's also unpopular. People don't like to hear that, especially school teachers. I don't want to say that people shouldn't go to school. In fact, we should be happy that we have schools and that we can learn a foreign language like English there. So, no, I'm definitely not against schools. And I think there are amazing teachers out there. In fact, I'm also studying to be a fully certified teacher. So I really cannot say that this is a bad thing, that we have bad teachers. Not at all. This is not my point. It's not about criticizing teachers. But it is a little bit about the school system and how English is taught at schools. We start learning English at an early age. In primary school, some people even before, but as soon as we come to school, we start to learn in a way that prepares us for testing. So when we learn English, we learn how to write, we learn how to, and of course, how to understand things, we learn how to say things. Children learn English at schools for a few reasons. Because they need to. That's an obvious one. But then also, why do they learn and why do they want to be good at languages? It's because they want to get a good grade, they want to get to a good high school or university, and they need English to get somewhere, as they call it, to climb the social ladder. And English in the process becomes a competition. How English is taught at schools. You are learned to listen, to understand, to study, memorize, and to write. Little or almost no time is dedicated to actually speaking. Because, as a wise teacher once said, to be able to speak freely, you need to dedicate some time to actually look silly. To look silly, because before you actually learn, before you learn to be fluent and very good at it, you have a certain amount of time where you're going to look silly. You're going to look, yes, ridiculous if you want. And people are afraid of that. That's first. But then second one is that it's hard to evaluate this because it's the best learning is done through play. And we don't evaluate play. There's no way to do it. Or there are ways, but most of the school system is not focused on playing. It's focused on getting results. It's focused on getting good grades. So little time is dedicated to speaking, to actually speaking a language, to learning the appropriate methods and techniques, how to improve your speaking. The process of schooling, learning English becomes a competition. A statistical example, I will take South Korea here. They have, in the last 10 years, they have dedicated a lot of time to learning English. They start learning English at an early age, but their fluency in English is about 10%, near fluency 20% in the whole country. Now let's get deeper in the statistics. Even when they do understand English, their system is mainly focused on understanding and writing. Little time is dedicated to actually listening and speaking. Then one reason for that is because they have a culture of where they are where they feel very ashamed to make mistakes. They're very self-conscious, and so you have these whole generations. They have very poor speaking abilities, and that doesn't mean that they don't study. That doesn't mean that they are not excellent in writing, but their speaking is very limited because they haven't dedicated so much time to actually being silly. Those who actually want to improve, they go abroad and they hire private tutors. The best results are actually achieved if they go and study abroad. Now, if we connect this to our to Europe, that our school system should dedicate much more time to speaking, because it's one of the most crucial abilities when we learn a language. And it's especially important when we're learning English, because English is not a phonetic language. And the way we write is not the way we speak. And why are there so many exceptions? People keep asking me that. It's because of history. There is no immediate logic. Only if you know the historical background, you will understand why enough is spelled like it is. Learning English at school becomes a race, becomes a competition. And that's not the purpose of learning a language. That's not a purpose of knowing a language and speaking it fluently at all. So that comes to the reason number two. Number two, why I believe this unpopular opinion is true. It's language is a tool that we use, like a painter uses a paintbrush, like a mechanic uses a French key. Do you ever wonder what kind of paintbrush the painter was using when he was making a painting? Or what kind of key did mechanic use when he changed my tire? I don't think so. So why do we have to know what grades did I have at school when I was learning English? In fact, sometimes at the lower at the beginning level of learning a language, we focus too much on writing. We focus too much on how many mistakes you make when you're writing. But guess what? Language is very, not language, but English spelling is very difficult. It's very difficult for native speakers, let alone for us, let alone for everybody else who is learning. It's so full of inconsistencies. It's full of things that only make sense when you know the whole history around it. So, does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? Or is it more important that I tell somebody what I want to achieve today, what my goals are, how I want to run my business, how I feel about talking to you, how I read this amazing book and it was just full of things I really enjoy? So, does it matter how I write in this process? Does it really matter? If you're not writing an academic paper, if you're not writing an email. And so while we're at the second case, I also stand by the fact that today we have all sorts of tools that can help us write, like all the AI, all the translators. Speaking is always very personal, and that brings us to the third, but maybe most important reason. This is actually what we composed with one of my students, and I think it's just absolutely fantastic. You need to build your sentences live. When you're speaking, you cannot cheat. Yes, you can have helping tools. You can use Google Translate to help you if you don't find a word. This is all possible. But let's imagine you're in the middle of somewhere without the Wi-Fi. You don't even have a phone and you need to communicate with your neighbor in the train because who knows? You just want to drink a cup of coffee or it's too hot, it's too cold, or you want to come to a city that you've never been before and you have no idea if this train is going there. And you just have to say this. You cannot keep going on Googling stuff every sentence. Well, you can, but how does that make you feel? Do you feel comfortable? You're not really there yet, right? Of course, in the process, we can do that. As we said, while we're in the process, we need to look silly. And so Googling stuff while you're speaking is one of the processes. So go ahead and do that while you're still learning. But I guess at some point you will feel more confident without doing that, won't you? What we discussed with my student is that you cannot cheat while you're speaking. You have to learn how to pronounce things. So you have to actually say those words and phrases out loud. And this is scary. It's scary. It's uncomfortable while you're learning. It's uncomfortable to make mistakes. Not just for Koreans. It's uncomfortable for everybody. It's human nature. And finally, reason number 4 for this unpopular opinion is that speaking connects different parts of brain. It activates prefrontal cortex, which is somewhere in front of the brain, which is another part that is responsible for understanding and writing. So when that part is activated, it connects all your other understanding. It connects all the dots as well. So you have to first understand. You have to be able to read as well. But even if you don't read, there are a lot of people who don't read English, but they can still speak it. What does that tell you? That speaking is still top priority for communication. And it's speaking is also the hardest skill to master because, as I said, because of all these reasons, because you need to go step by step, and speaking is when you enter school, when you already learn the language the way that you do, speaking becomes the hardest skill to master because now we're not children anymore. We're ashamed, shy to be making mistakes. So it's somehow the last of our priorities, while it should be the first. That brings us back to school, which has a different priority than it should. The the target is fluency in English. I think the school's target is also fluency in English. However, a lot of students reach that target, but what about those that are weaker? Shouldn't we focus shouldn't we focus on speaking in all the students? Shouldn't we give more emphasis to the primary means of communication? That's a question that will remain unanswered. But if you want to help, or if you want to discuss this topic, I'll be glad to see your comments, and I'm really waiting for them. So thank you for listening to this unpopular opinion series, the reasons why this unpopular opinion is like it is, and I'm really looking forward to receiving your comments in the section below.